Welcome back to 20 Minutes of Clarity, your go to podcast for financial information so you can make better informed financial decisions. I'm your host, Jason Noble, and with me today is Andy, the man merchant, always wearing that smile of his. We always love seeing that. Now, we're wrapping up 2024. This is the last podcast of this wonderful, beautiful year as we go into 2025. And the theme for January is going to be setting the foundation for the year. So we're just going to go ahead and start right now, just getting a head start going into 2025. And we're going to answer this important question today on this podcast. How can I build financial clarity to kick off 2025? Andy, I'll kick it over to you to give us like a rundown of like what you think we should be discussing today to answer that important question.
Yeah, well, for the next, one, I'm excited. This has been a fun year, right? So thanks for always kicking us off and always adding that extra description of me. But really, to answer your question, Jason, the three things that we're going to get our listeners to really know about today is building a financial clean slate. That's step one. Step two is going to be how do you maximize your potential? We'll go into some strategies that I think are helpful for those to implement their plan. And then finally, how do you build financial habits? I've always grown up in the world that you have to do something for 7 days in order for it to stick. And we're hoping to be able to outline a few ways to do that. So really excited for this kickoff, really excited to start a new chapter of 20 Minutes of Clarity. So, we're going to share
I
some
love
really
that
good
you
insight.
could do something for 7 days to get a new habit formed. It takes me like 21 days minimum
I'm like in
to
dog
start
years,
that.
though. You
Is
know?
that what it is on the
Yeah,
math?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Kind of.
no, it's building habits.
Yes.
That could be the tough part. And, we were even discussing this leading up to our conversation going. And so, like, New Year's resolutions is a very popular thing for this time of the year. And some of the stats that we got were about 40% of adults in the US even set a resolution. So maybe it's dwindling in popularity. I always felt like it was higher. I don't know why, but the numbers are showing that it's lower, around 40%. But here's the thing, like a year-long success all the way through, studies estimated to be only 8 to 9% of people actually stick to their resolutions for the entire year. So as we get into our conversation, we just want to make sure that every listener understands that there's going to be questions that we're addressing that hit at that moment in your life because we just got you at the right time with whatever was going on with your personal finances.
Hmm.
There's other going to be questions that we answer that don't hit. Well, that doesn't mean that the next week won't, right? It's
Yeah.
just like come back every week. That's the big ask that we're going to have. That's the resolution that we want to
Yeah.
put at the top of your list, right? As a financial habit. But I want to get into that first thing you said. I kind of jumped ahead because I got so excited. Is that financial clean slate that you mentioned?
Yeah.
So let's address that. Like, what does that look like as a financial clean slate going into the new year?
Well, and today's a perfect example, right? We're at the end of the year. Everybody's probably preparing for their New Year's Eve parties and stuff coming up versus sitting here listening to our podcast and say, I'm going to reset. But, as soon as the hangovers wear off, the late night wake ups and go from there, it is about that. It's the start of a new year. It's a chance for everybody to at least counterly just reset. Think about the good that happened in 2024, but think about what the changes, the areas to optimize into 2025 are going to be. And that's really what it is. You got to reset. You got to rethink. Don't worry about what you did last year. Don't worry what worked or didn't work. But more importantly, you have to start with the effort. I think that's the important thing right today, Jason, is New Year's resolutions are always fun to say, but they probably don't ever get implemented or they get pushed to the side because they're usually set with unrealistic goals, or unrealistic expectations. Think about it. What most of those people probably like, I'm going to go work out. And so what I think the most gym memberships are started in January and then nobody goes. Don't make that your financial plan. Start with a clean slate. We do a lot together in our clear picture analysis work, which is our clean slates, starter for all of our clients that people can do themselves. But start by thinking about your goals. Think about those core conversations you want to have with yourself. Think about those core goals that you want to achieve and just start to write things down. I can't express that enough. Write things down, make it intentional. But that's the first start is start having a conversation about what you want for the future.
When I look at what I want to accomplish for the future, I don't know why I always do this. It's just a habit that I picked up over the years. I look at where I've been.
Mm-hmm.
This is always an interesting thing. Like we get ornaments when we go on family trips, and it's crazy when we put the ornament up on the tree. We're like, I can't believe this was this year that we did this or that, whatever. Because, we get bogged down with living life and the responsibilities of what they call hashtag being adulting now. I don't know what that's about, but anyway, I'm trying to stay cool. But um, but like here's the thing that I did, right? Is when we were taking down the ornaments and putting them away and everything as we wrapped up, we don't like to have the Christmas lights up past this time of this podcast, right? We want all that
Rip
stuff
them
down.
down.
We
Yep.
want them down, right?
Yep.
If you have lights still up in like let's say June, you might have a problem. Seek help, okay? But I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to help, okay? But what we did is when we took a look at what we did in 2024, like what were those major events, we actually took a little bit of extra time and looked at the photos that we took. That was a fun thing to do as a family. But then it was like, okay, what are we looking at doing for 2025 now? Do we want to go to the same places? If so, okay, what's the cost going to be? Right? Did they change their pricing or anything like that? When do we want to go? Right? These factors come into play. We also
Yep.
took a look at our annual performance. What happened to not only our investments, but our net worth? What happened to our actual balance sheet, right? And our assets, right? So we looked at those things. Now, when I say we, I'm talking my wife and I. I don't bring in the kids yet. They're 10 and 7. Now, when they're older, I'm going to bring them into some of these discussions, start building that muscle memory of financial literacy, right? And financial awareness. But then also I'm looking at my tax efficiency. Now, I've already been doing this as we wrapped up 2024, but I wanted to see what was my actual effective taxes, not my tax bracket, but what did I actually have to pay? And then is there things that I could be considering and doing? Now, I work with my accountant. I have a professional that I rely on. I know a lot about this to be dangerous, but I'm not a CPA. I'm not an enrolled agent. So I bring in a professional to also check me, making sure we're doing this in a collaborative manner. So I also think that's important that you just do this on your own. But when you get to a certain point, you want to then start bringing in those professionals.
Mm-hmm.
And also make sure that you are aligning your financial decisions with your life goals and priorities. I can't tell you how many times I have like a newer relationship that I'm starting with a client and they want to retire as soon as possible, but they're saving 5% of their overall investments and they have no other assets really to do that. Okay, wonderful. Let's see what we could do to help you retire as soon as possible. But are your actions aligning with that actual goal? And there's something I'm touching on, Andy, and I just want to bring it out, is that accountability partner. You mentioned like why do
Mm-hmm.
people start to like fail on their New Year's resolutions? I put it on New Year's resolutions and all their goals, right? Why is that? That only 8 to 9% actually have it year long. And I go, it's maybe they're too vague. Maybe they're saying, I just want to save more money. What does that mean? Be more tactical in that. What does that look like? Put a dollar sign attached to that. Not only that, but do they have an accountability partner? I've been through many classes, Andy, and the classes that I were going into, they were like, if you share your goal, if you speak it out loud, if you tell somebody else, you have a higher probability of achieving that I can't speak now, specific goal. Okay. However, if you keep it internal, the chances of you actually fulfilling that goal diminish significantly just because of how we are as people.
Yep.
So when I have a goal that's really important to me, I'm speaking about that with my wife. When I have a goal at work, we're having meetings on that goal on a monthly basis. And then we're reviewing how we tracked on a quarterly basis. This is what we do within our office. Andy, you brought that to me. It's called Traction for those who own business owners. I want you to check out that book, Traction. But Andy brought that to me, and it's really helped me with my personal goal setting and professional goal setting.
Well, and that's right, and that's the thing about this whole entire podcast and what we're helping people with today is, your number one priority should be to simplify the complexity I have with my money. That's the It's a complex relationship. We get it because everybody's different out there. So if anybody's for those that are listening and viewing us today, here's your quick takeaway of how to set a clean slate. Is the very first thing is that what Jason pointed out, start by reviewing your balance sheet. You have to know where your assets are, where your liabilities are. You have to understand where your income sources are coming from. It's a cash flow statement, but just start to write down what are your assets, what are your liabilities, and that's going to give you a lot of direction. There is a ton of apps out there that'll do this for you, by the way, if you want to do it, but that's step one. Because once you have step one in place, then you can go to step two of getting a clean slate, and that's to write down what your spending goals are for the future, but also your current spending level, so you can understand, how do I improve my cash flow? Because without good cash flow, the whole balance sheet thing that you just put together is kind of questionable. But once you have a good understanding of your balance sheet and a good understanding of your cash flow now and in the future, now you can really start to implement in or combine those in with your future goals. So that's where you sit down and you start saying, do I want to retire early? Do I want to be able to travel more frequently? Write those goals down. That's what you do with that financial partner. Not accountability yet. That's your wealth partner. So those are the very first three things. This is what we do as the baseline of the clear picture analysis. And Jason, what you just brought to the table, I think is extra important, which is then I ask everybody out there with their notebook is to write down who that accountability partner is going to be. Is it going to be, and it can't just be your spouse, right? That's your accountability supporter, right? You should be supporting each other. But who's going to be that person that's going to sit down and force you to those meetings? And I'd say force in a nice way, right? We schedule, depending on how much the client needs us, how often we should review. Well, our reviews are set there. Our team calls up. We say, hey, Jason, it's that time. We got to sit down and talk about your plan and update your goals and keep you accountable for doing the things that we outline. So that's the four things that I think people should be writing down and take away to get a clean slate, get a balance sheet, understand your cash flow, then determine your goals, and then identify your accountability partner.
Anything so how do we maximize the financial potential in 2025? Yep.
Well, with those, right, then you can start to take a step back and take that 30,000 foot view, that macro view, and then start to go down to the micro. When you start to identify that, you'll say, man, maybe I should probably save a little more money. And now you know the why. That's why I believe New Year's resolutions have always failed. Is people say, I want to lose weight. Okay, well, you know what you want to do. Why do you want to do it? Well, maybe because I want to look better in the future. Or I want to be healthier because I want to extend my life expectancy potentially, whatever it may be. But that's when you can go down to maximize the potential, is now you know the why you're doing it. So if you identify, man, I'm not able to maybe get to my retirement goals as quickly because I'm not intentionally saving enough money because I'm spending too much going to Starbucks on a weekly basis. Going back to that cliche statement, what if I just saved an extra 15, 20, 30 bucks a week and we're able to apply that into an intentional bucket of money? That's how you start to say that, and I'll transition to you on this, Jason, but it comes down to don't overload it. There are too many things that you'll probably identify you could do to improve your financial situation. The point of simplifying it and bringing clarity to your own personal picture is write down 3 or 4 or 5 things that you're going to do. I'm going to save more. I'm going to maybe optimize my debt. I'm going to finally get that will and trust done. I'm going to review my life insurance so that if I don't come home, that my family's taken care of, right? Write those 4 things down. And then those are the things you should be reviewing.
There's one other thing I just want to add on maximizing your financial potential, and that's addressing the psychological side of finances.
Yeah.
Emphasizing mindset shift to maintain focus and motivation throughout the year, having that growth mindset that I think Andy is absolutely amazing at having. It's not the mindset of scarcity. It's that mindset of abundance and growth. Right. And if you have a misstep, get back into the pattern that you have already started working on. The psychological side of finances, taking a look at money different than how your parents taught you. right? Different than what you're maybe hearing at the water cooler at work. That's an old term reference, okay? Right? I don't know if
Yeah.
they even have those anymore. But like but like what I'm getting at is okay, what are you doing to get outside of your own comfort zone to seek to learn something new and continue that education of finances?
Yep.
Listening to this podcast is a wonderful start. Great start. We
Yep.
love it. Continue that journey. Let's get into financial habits for long-term clarity and confidence.
Yeah.
As we wrap up this part of our conversation, I just want to share some of the habits that and routines that I've seen that create that
Yeah.
consistency check-ins within like just that consistent check-in with your financial advisor. You mentioned that earlier. I just want to reiterate it. Monitoring the net worth and maintaining a clear cash flow plan. Those are those are habits right then and there, right? And I'm like you hear that we're reiterating, it's just because they're all tied together in this topic, right? Andy, earlier you discussed having tools, apps that could simplify your financial management. Yeah, the with technology nowadays, it improves the transparency and the tracking of your finances.
Yep.
You can see with certain apps like what your spending pattern looks like, what your investments look like. There's apps out there that do both. That's really important that you get a holistic 360 view of what's going on within your finances. And one last login, that's great, right? Just one login,
Yep.
right? However, if you're dead set on using an app that only looks at cash flow, great. You got a good part of that picture, but you need something else that's going to help you with the other things that are going on with your personal finances.
Yep.
We use eMoney as our financial planning software, and our clients have a client portal that they can log into. And it's interesting, Andy, is seeing the adoption rate of the clients going into the portal. We see a tick, a nice tick in January, February, March, April, and then it starts to slow down. That's when we're sending out those reminders. Hey, I uploaded this to your vault. So they got to log in, right? And
Yeah.
then check out what's going on in there. But, because they have a financial advisor that's helping them stay on their path. But if you don't, you're doing this all on your own, great. Go get that app that's out there or that website that you feel is trusted. Do your due diligence to make sure it's secure and use it, leverage it, stay engaged in it. The first Saturday of every month, my wife and I, we get together and we look at our cash flow from the prior month and set our goal for the upcoming month. We just have that reoccurring schedule and that cadence that keeps me and her on track towards our overall long-term financial goals.
Well, and you and Rachel are so intentional on that, and I love that you brought that part up because when I think about that, and I'm sure my family situation may be a lot like other people on the other side of the coin because my wife's like, I don't care. Like Angie's like, hey, whatever you say, Andy, just tell me what we can and cannot do, right? So sitting down with her over on the first Saturday of a month or pick a day and talking about finances, I think she'd rather sit there and pull out her hair than sit there and do that with me, right? And there's people out there, and that's okay. But it doesn't mean that we still don't have the conversation. That's the habit that I'm building with her because I tell her every day, I'm with you on this, hon. I'll do it, but we need to have a conversation so you know about it, right? And so we just start sitting down there. I said, so I asked her more. I'm like, sit down and said, what goals do you have? Are there anything that you're not comfortable with right now? Is there anything you want to know more about? Right? Because in our world, sometimes one spouse knows more about the financials than the other spouse, and it puts that other spouse at like kind of a discomfort because they're like, can I spend money on this? Can I do this? We live in these budgets. When you tell them maybe, hey, maybe we should cut back on the subscription, or maybe we should apply money here, and they're like, well, that means I can't do this or I can't do that. They don't understand the why. So Angie and I will have conversations. We need to do better. That's one of my wealth resolutions for the year is to do better on a more regular schedule. So it's casual, right? You may want to be more formal. And I know, Jason, your expertise is going to talk to half the listeners. And then my approach of being more casual is going to talk to the other half. The key is build a habit by having a conversation. Don't just do it when there's a large expense or Christmas bill comes due, right? Whatever it may be more intentional. I think that's the whole goal of building financial habits is if it takes you 21 days to build a habit or 7, depends on if you're counting in dog years or human years, right? Build a habit I think the other point I wanted to highlight is on this is this is what I do. Listen to podcasts like ours. Read books. Fight. Jason talked about traction. Psychology of Money should be a really good book. But start to get intentional with financial topic books or podcasts that are going to help spurk some of those questions, so that when you do have those intentional reviews with your financial advisor, your CPA, your attorney, you at least understand some of the information that's out there. What else am I
Andy,
going
I could. There's nothing I could add on that. Absolutely, it's not about being formal or informal, right, Andy? It's
to?
about staying consistent, having that conversation, so that both people are involved. If you're married, now if you're single and you want to talk out loud to yourself, go get at it. It's up to you, right? Live your life. You know,
Well,
isn't that a
that's
good way to wrap
yeah,
up a podcast
yeah,
on financial
yeah.
information? Just get at it. Go
Just get
talk
at it.
to
Well,
yourself.
I don't know
Now, if
we're
you're doing it in
landing.
public, just be a little bit
Yeah,
quieter, maybe, you
yeah.
know?
Well, I know we're landing the plane here on this, but I love how you said that, because we naturally went down the path of our scenario, which is the situation we're in, and it's about talking to your spouse. But there are a lot of people out there building wealth that don't have that spouse yet, and maybe create a group, right? I mean, things that we do every day is I've got a group of attorneys and CPAs that we just grab coffee. Take a
Yeah.
group of your network, sit down and just talk about struggles. You don't have to go into the nitty gritty and say, oh, I can't pay this credit card, or I'm doing really well there. Just talk about life and how things are progressing. It's someone that's going to be your accountability partner or support partner in that case. But just get at it, because that's the whole point of this year is I hope you make this the best year you possibly can. I hope your wealth gets simplified, and that's what we're here to do. And we hope you tune in weekly to help.
Well, that was Andy the Man Merchant. I'm Jason Noble. You just watched and listened to 20 Minutes of Clarity. Tune in next week as we address what budgeting strategies can help navigate inflation. Oh gosh, it's going to take a week to prepare for this one, Andy. Looking forward to talking with you then. Take care.
See you guys.